Okay, so if you've read the title, you probably already know what my opinions are going to be. But yes, last night I went to go see the new Superman film. I apologise that it's taken me a few days to get round to this, but again, we've had another heat wave for the past week. It's been way too hot to go outside, so I do apologise that this is late. And yeah, I went to go see the new Superman last night. So this is written and directed by James Gunn. This stars David Corenswet as the titular character, as he reconciles with his Kryptonian heritage, as well as faces various rivals, including Lex Luthor, who is played by Nicholas Hoult. This was an interesting one for me because growing up, it was either Superman or Batman that I grew up with. Superman was kind of always around in my house as a kid. My dad is a huge Superman fan, and the 90s series Lois and Clark was on TV quite a lot. But I never really liked Superman. I always preferred Batman. I found that Superman was always a bit too overpowered for my liking, and I found that quite boring as a kid. So when this was announced, I wasn't really that interested in it until I saw the trailer, and I was like, okay. So it looks a lot more colourful, it looks a lot more brighter, it looks fun, which is something that the Zack Snyder film Man of Steel was actually missing, I thought. Film was very, very dark, and while I think, it was okay, it was very dark, it was also seemed kind of smug in its presentation of this character. So, yeah, a new film wasn't really something I was that interested in until I saw the trailer and then thought, okay, let's go in with an open mind and see what it's like. And it's great. It is fantastic. As a non-Superman fan, James Gunn, can you, do all of the DC films now? Because this was fantastic. David Corenswet, apologies if I'm mispronouncing the name, is great as Clark Kent / Superman. We don't see too much of Clark Kent, but there is a reason for that, a narrative reason for it. This is more of a Superman story rather than a Clark Kent story. But he's great. He's fantastic. He's a very charismatic person. It's really interesting. There's a couple of scenes. I'm not going to say what they are because I don't know if they're actually in the trailers or not. I didn't see too many of the trailers for this one because I didn't want to. But there's a couple of scenes where it shows, he has a very good nature. He's very sweet. He's very kind and friendly. He wants to look out for humanity and take care of it. No matter what side that is on, there's a couple of political moments in this that happened, which ends up being the whole plot, where it's you can see that politics isn't really him. He'll just go to whoever needs the help, which is what Superman is like. He is there to represent the best of humanity and the best it has to offer, and the good of humanity. And that was captured very, very well here. There's a speech later on in the film where he says, it doesn't really matter where I originally came from. What matters is my actions and what I'm doing now on Earth. And that's, it's very true. It's the whole don't let your background decide who you are in this moment and who you are now. And his actions speak for that more than his words. Same can't be said for Krypto the dog. So this is in the trailer. Krypto the super dog is also in this, and he is adorable. He's not a good dog. Actually, no, scratch that. No, he's a good dog. He's a good dog. He's the best boy. But he's also adorable. He gets a lot more screen time than I thought he was going to, actually, which I really like as well. Like I said earlier, Nicholas Hoult plays Lex Luthor. He was fantastic too. Both of the leads were brilliant in this, and I really liked his performance. I don't see him in a lot of films, but whenever I do, I really like him as an actor, and he's great in this. His motive makes a lot of sense. His actions don't. He is one of those villains where it's his motivation makes sense of, you just came down to Earth and just went and did your own thing and you think you're better than us because of that, which it does make sense that he would think that. And there was a point where I was like, I get what you're saying, but your actions, like I said earlier, your actions speak louder than your words. So, and that goes for Superman, where it's like he can say all this stuff, like he's kind and stuff, but him actually saving people, and you get a lot of scenes of him just saving people, doing really menial, like little tasks, but that all, you know, counts to the goodness of his heart. Whereas you got Lex Luthor, where it's like, yeah, I get what you're saying, but actually what you're doing isn't good and doesn't reflect the words of what you're speaking. So I thought that was a really interesting juxtaposition that they did, and it was really well executed. But what I think was interesting was they also introduced Hawkgirl, Green Lantern, and Mr. Terrific. Mr. Terrific in particular, played by Eddie Kafigi. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing the name, but I thought he was fantastic. There's a particular fight scene in the sort of middle half / third act, which was fantastic. He was really cool. Also Nathan Fillion, who plays Green Lantern, and Hawkgirl, played by Isabella Marcid. With the introduction of those three characters, I think this also introduces something else which I find quite interesting, was that because James Gunn is now doing these films, we had this with Guardians of the Galaxy as well, where he's really gone into the comic books to be like, okay, what are the more less popular characters that we know of? What are the ones that need to have a redo? Looking at you, Green Lantern. But also, he's gone, okay, Marvel and DC comics are weird. There are some weird characters in those comics when you actually dig deeper and steer away from like Batman, Superman, Spider-Man and that kind of thing. There are some really obscure characters, but I like with this and with even with Guardians of the Galaxy and the Suicide Squad as well, actually, what he's doing is he's taking all of those weird characters, bringing them to the foreground onto the big screen and going, yeah, we're not going to do a grounded to reality execution. Comic books are weird. Let the comic book films be weird, and that's okay. We're, gone are the days of Batman and Robin, from the 90s. Like, gone are those days. We know how to do weird without being awful. Like, we know how to do that by this point, and I think that's why I also enjoyed this, because its execution was so unapologetically strange. It didn't care that, oh, there's a giant, again, this is in the trailer, there's a giant, like, kaiju-like monster. There's a scene with Lois and Clark where in the background there's like a space octopus tentacly monster, and it's just there. Like, there's no one going, oh, that's weird, like, that's really strange. It's like, this is what it is. And I really like that. I think I'm really interested to know what the future DC films are going to be like under James Gunn. I think they're going to be really interesting, because he's going to take all these smaller characters and put them in these films to create some new stories that we haven't actually seen before. And I think we're in the right hands for that. So not only are they going to be great, but also, yeah, we get introduced to characters that we haven't beforehand, or we get better versions of those characters. So like with Green Lantern and Hawkgirl, but also we get characters like Mr. Terrific, who was terrific, who was great. And it was really enjoyable as well, because the film didn't take itself seriously. It was going, yeah, this is what it is. I mean, when it did need to be serious, it was, but for the most part, it's just going, this is what it is, guys. Like, these are the characters that are here, and we're not going to, like, ground them into reality, like, oh, you've got, like, space powers? Okay, cool, you got space powers. Does it make sense? No, it just is. And I think that's okay to do. The other thing I absolutely loved in this, and to be honest, I haven't seen this kind of thing happen with a film probably since Hardcore Henry, which I think was 2016 or 2017, is the cinematography. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. And I think the cinematography is going to be divisive for some people. There's a lot of shots that are made to look like they're one take. The camera's flipping around a character and flipping around a building or horizon. I can see that it can be quite dizzying for some people. I personally loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Yeah, I haven't seen something like that since probably Hardcore Henry, which was a first person type film. But even then, that's not really cutting it close to what this type of camera work was doing. It was very, very impressive, and I absolutely loved it. The music was also great as well. I think what I liked, and the trailer also showed this, is they used the 1978 Superman theme and built upon that. They built their score around that theme. This felt very like 70s/80s style, which, if you can tell from the title sequence, from the trailer, that's what they were going for. It really worked. The designs of like Superman's like cave felt very much like that, and it really, really worked. What's interesting is that I can't remember if I mentioned this, but I definitely had a note about this. When I went to see 28 Years Later, I mentioned, did I mention this? That John Murphy wasn't actually doing the score. He did the score for the previous two 28 films. And I can see why he wasn't doing that, because he was doing this. So the score is co-composed by John Murphy. And yeah, I really, really like the score as well. I'm not going to go into spoilers with this one, because that's everything that I have to say. Like I said, I was never really a Superman fan growing up. So comic-wise, my best friend, who I had a conversation with when I came out of the cinema, recognised a lot more of the smaller characters in this film that make an appearance than I did. So unfortunately I can't really comment on that, so I apologise. But the one thing I will say is there is a mid-credit and end-credit scene. You guys probably know this by now because it's been a few days since the film came out, but if you didn't know, there's a couple of end-credit scenes. I'm not going to talk about them here because I don't really have too much opinions on them. Again, I don't really have that much knowledge of the comics and stuff, so it didn't really mean much to me. But I don't know, you probably got more from it if you read the comics. I don't know. But yeah, that was my review of Superman 2025. I absolutely love this film. I really enjoyed this film. This was great, and I'm very surprised at myself. Oh my god, a Superman film that I actually loved. But I was Megan, this is Battle Royale with Cheese. See you soon.